welcome to another rousing episode of Saturday/Sunday Rants About Things for No Real Reason. And today we have a very special movie because I decided to haul my cookies all the way to the movie theater today to see Green Lantern, to rant about it just for you. So sit back and watch as I unravel the very uncomplicated history of this very badly plotted movie. So as you guys are well aware of, I can't stand movies where there's no real plot, but there's indeed a lot of famous people thrown in your face for no real reason, and there's a lot of unbelievable relationships, unexplained characters, unexplained plot, random, conclusions to hero and villain sequences, and a lot of predictable scenes. Now, Green Lantern had the very special honor of having all 6 of these things rolled into one movie that is still a box office hit or whatever. So let's just talk about this for a minute. First of all, the movie began like, some type of romance comedy, which was really a throw off because I was expecting, action-packed, whatever, and all we got was Ryan Reynolds rolling over onto this random blonde that was not explained past that one scene at the beginning of the movie. So aside from that, you bring in Blake Lively, who now has dark hair and is trying to distance herself from the non-seriousness of her characters previous to this moment, but it's just not believable because to me she's always going to be Serena on Gossip Girl, who is an unpredictable, irresponsible blonde who has her smart moments and her kind moments, but is still that rash, unpredictable blonde. Then you have Ryan Reynolds, who's, meat cake, awesome, smoking hot, and that's pretty much all he is in this case. I mean, he's sarcastic and funny, and that's good, but other than that, his character was pretty so-so. So, anyway, they are the Green Lantern characters. They didn't explain any of the people that worked there. They had a random pilot sequence where they sort of told you how his dad died, and he was a pilot, and he sort of, was on his way to pilot something, and then his plane just malfunctioned, and he crashed into a bunch of stuff. Like, it was really weird. His plane was going like this, straight, and then it just, just flipped up in the air, like some type of techno sequence, and then, it just crashed, like, and then, he was getting out, and he was totally fine, and then it just went, when it blew up right in front of his kid, and now he's damaged goods, but not really. So then, it had all that. They didn't explain Ryan Reynolds' character very well. There was this awkward love triangle between this really old guy, Hector, and Ryan Reynolds' character, Hal, and the girl who Blake Lively was playing, Carol. None of that was ever explained. They didn't give you any background. They just threw this relationship in your face that was totally unbelievable because she totally hated him at the beginning, and then she found out he was the Green Lantern at a party, and then now all of a sudden she loves him, and they have all this chemistry and history, and she understands him. But, all of that is just glossed over. They don't explain that at all. They, kiss at the end, of course, even though really they still have a lot of unresolved issues because he was clearly sleeping with that woman at the beginning of the movie. If they're, so tight, that shouldn't be happening. I can't tell you any of the names of the Green Lantern members because even the guy that died and gave Ryan Reynolds / Hal his ring, even that guy wasn't explained. We had like a very brief sequence where he was fatally wounded, and he crashed down into Earth and gave Hal his ring to become the Green Lantern and whatnot. And you never know his name. The guy who was his student, and they were really close. This guy just dies, and we have no idea who he is. No idea whatsoever. And I'm not going to spoil any of the Green Lantern and villain, whatever. I don't even remember what the villain was called, I'm not going to spoil any of that conflict for you. I mean, it wasn't really great. But, I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm just going to say that it was clear from the very beginning of the movie how exactly, what exactly was going to happen, because it was one of those things that gets put into a movie and at the time it seems really random, and you kind of in the back of your mind are like, that's going to play into the end in some way. And it did. And what is that? The plot. It was just all over the place. Like, you're going back and forth between scenes of non-importance and importance, and it was really not well developed. It was one of those pieces of Hollywood fluff that they have to put out in the summer for people to go look at so that they'll be spending money on something. It was exactly like I Am Number 4 to me in the way that it was so ridiculously predictable and unrealistic at the same time. And it was hilarious because all of the funny things that were intended to be funny, I'm sitting here like, ha, ha, like not even a real laugh or not even something that I genuinely think is hilarious. I thought the most funny scene in the movie was like right in the middle when the villain thing is like, wafting into the streets. And before, when the villain was still in the sky, the people were standing in the street in their cars because traffic had been stopped. They're sitting there with their phones like, oh my god, it's a villain. Look at the sky, everyone. Look at the sky. And the people are just, the police and everything are directing them like, get out of the streets, go into a building, or just go away from this situation, clear the streets. And no one's listening. They say it again, clear the streets. And they're like, oh no, look at this, we could put this on YouTube. And then the thing starts billowing down into the streets. Then everybody's like, oh, and just starts running away. I'm like, seriously? You had an hour, maybe not an hour, but you had at least 30 minutes between those calls to run. Do you know how far you could have been from this villain if you had run the first time you were told, instead of waiting until the very second that it's already crawling down into the street killing people? Seriously? And I know that's really dark humor, but that was what I found funny. So, if you want to go and see something that will make your brain hurt and make you want to be a screenplay writer just because you know for a fact you can write a movie that is better than this, I applaud you. And if you want to go and see that, please do, and tell me your thoughts, because I thought it was ridiculous. And that is my verdict. I would give that movie a 2.5 out of 5. It's a very harsh rating, but I had to pay a lot of money to go see this too. So that concludes my rant about the Green Lantern.